right, everybody. My name is Andrew, and welcome to the National Caregiving Conference. We are on day 3 of this lovely conference, one more to go, and our theme of this year's conference is Our Amazing Difference. And for today's talk, I would like to talk about the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in various family caregiving systems. And so a lot of today's activity is going to be a little bit reflective, and then at some point I'll open it to a discussion-based, and then towards the end we'll talk about a case study. So let's go ahead and dive right into that. So here's my my lovely picture of Junior, the squirrel, and our friend Babe, the hairless cat. So what you can't tell is there's a pane glass in between them, keeping them separate. I like to put this image up there because it's a great way to start a conversation about thinking about the strengths of different people, in this case, animals. So we think about the strengths of the squirrel, we think about the strengths of the cat. We think about their relationship together and how there might be a threat between each other. The cat wants to eat the squirrel, squirrel wants to live, store his nuts all winter. So this is just a little way to get started to think about how even in the animal kingdom there's different strengths and weaknesses, opportunities and threats. And down there it says kestrel, which is America's smallest raptor, and it's actually a community in Louisville, Colorado that I'm going to talk about. So I'm going to kind of highlight what the SWOT technique is, and then we're going to do some self-reflection and some mindfulness activities, and then I'll kind of dive into the case study. Okay, so a little bit about me. I've been a family caregiver for a couple years now, caring for my grandma and my uncle. Right now I'm doing it long distance, but before I was living with them. It was a hard choice to leave them to go pursue my education. But now every time I come back to a conference like this, Sunday through a couple days, I'm going to go spend some time with the family. So the caregiving role is still there, but it's a little different. I've been a professional caregiver since 2010, almost coming up on my decade. Oh my goodness, it's amazing. Being a professional caregiver, I started as a CNA, doing the hands-on care. I was originally in nursing school, and my mom says, if you really want to be a nurse, you need to become a CNA first, because otherwise your staff that's underneath you, the CNAs, they won't respect you, and you won't have any idea what you're doing. So as soon as I got through my clinical hours and I'm in the field, I was like, I don't want to be a nurse at all. I did not want to pass pills all day. The way I seen nursing just, I could not do it. Paperwork, no. I wanted the hands-on care. I wanted to be holding hands. I wanted to be bathing. I wanted to be feeding. I wanted to be changing. And I was so empowered by this hands-on care. And so I began to study psychology and how the brain works, and I eventually got a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology where I studied a lot of emotion, and in particular, the emotion of people with Alzheimer's disease, how their behaviors come about, why suddenly people can be aggressive at the blink of an eye, and how their different emotions are expressed and related. And then eventually, after working a couple years in the nursing home communities, I got an opportunity to become a caregiving educator, and I started working for a company called Comfort Keepers, and they offered in-home care. And I started teaching and teaching and teaching, and I just kept seeing more and more of a similar issue of this high rates of burnout, high rates of fatigue, individuals who were just doing their best and giving their all, but just had no energy at the end of the day. And so that's when I decided there's got to be something different. And so I went out to Naropa University in Boulder, Colorado, where I currently study mindfulness-based transpersonal counseling, because I knew that this gift of mindfulness could help family caregivers. So this mindfulness I'm going to bring in today as well. So again, I'm a cisgendered male. I use he, him, his pronouns, and I've been doing support groups and memory cafes, and this is my 4th year presenting at this conference. So I'm really committed to making a difference in the lives of family caregivers, particularly of those who have loved ones with dementia. Okay, so this slide here talks about Kolb's experiential model. So right now we're going to be kind of in this abstract conceptualization stage where we're kind of talking about these different topics. And then when I invite the mindfulness activity, some self-reflective questions, we're going to play with it. We're going to play with this concept of strength. We're going to play with this concept of weakness. We're going to play with it a little bit more. And then when we get to the concrete, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about your experiences, what have been your strengths and your weaknesses, the threats to your family, and the opportunities for success and healing and wholeness. And then, at the end, we'll just do some reflective observation as I talk about the Kestrel pilot program and kind of what happened there. And then we'll kind of open up to questions at the end. So this is Kolb's experiential model. It's a really great way to learn. You start with an abstract concept, and you start playing with it. You get real grounded in it, and then you say, well, did that work? How did that make me feel? What was this like? Okay? So to begin this next process, I would like to invite you to get in a relaxed and comfortable position. Yeah, relaxation. And you have permission to fall asleep, so I will give you that. Because I know, it's hard, it's hard. This is emotionally draining work. And being at a conference, it's both rejuvenating and it can be pretty exhausting. So let's honor that as well. So whatever you need, please honor your needs. So I'll just guide us in a quick, about 1 minute guided meditation, just to ground and arrive. And then I'm going to introduce strengths and some reflective questions. All right, so noticing where you are now, just go ahead and take a note on what's alive for you. Whether it's thoughts or emotions, maybe some sensations in your body. Just take note of what's here and welcome it. And begin to notice your breath. Notice the points of contact on your chair, where your feet hit the ground. Yeah, that's it. So as we talk about strengths, I'm going to offer some questions. And in this mindful space, just when the question lands for you, just see if anything comes alive. Maybe you take a note, maybe you just sit with it. Whatever you do is okay. So as we consider strengths, who am I? What are my values? What do I know about myself? What are my gifts? How have I been a blessing to others? What do I know I am good at? What do others say about my talents? Where do I find nourishment and encouragement? Who inspires me? What can I do for hours without a break? What gives me hope? And who in my life supports me? And just notice what's come up for you. Again, any thoughts and sensations or feelings, any stories, any faces of a loved one. And come back into the room, and we're going to kind of open this discussion now with some of these things that I've asked. So, what is strength? What does it mean to be strong? I'd like to open this up to you.
To me, being strong means having something of value to offer others.
Giving.
Mm-hmm.
And I would add, to me, being strong is resilience and the ability to bounce back when, you've been beat down, to get back up and be able to keep going.
For me, it's decisiveness and at the same time being flexible, dealing with problems. For me, it's being there when I'm needed and knowing that I'm there because someone feels that I can make a difference.
To me, it's being able to stand somewhere when you're not expected to or not wanted to, because it's the right thing to do.
So the question was, how do we define strength? What gives us strength?
That's a tough one to be put on the spot for. I think the strongest people I know are the people who do things without expecting things in return and do them for reasons that come internally.
Yeah, that's great. So we have a pretty broad definition of strength, what gives us strength. And for those of you who took notes, is there anything you'd like to share when I was asking those questions?
I wrote the following: listening, caring, empathetic, happy home, wonderful friends, and then something that was a little different, missing my family because they're not close by. I have my husband, and he's close by, obviously, but I have other family members that I do miss, and that I do miss, so that's an issue for me.
Anyone else?
I enjoy serving others, giving my time and my talents without an expectation of any return, but just giving. I get a lot of satisfaction from that.
Just what first came to mind was for who am I, the roles I play, so son or partner or employee. But then who am I when I into the next level of that is I like humor, I like creativity, and I think I'm empathetic. And so it came more about how I approach the world versus the roles that I play. So.
What do I know about myself? Yeah, what do I know about myself? I know that I am a person who very much is affected by my environment. So it's become even more important as I get older that I remove myself from toxic relationships, or that I give myself breaks from unpleasant circumstances, family, friends, a puzzle in 5 minutes by myself, whatever I need so I can be my best for others.
The smart aleck of me was, what can you do for hours without a break? And I thought sleep. So I'm pretty good at that. But, yeah, but you know, from a value standpoint, I kept thinking as the questions were going through, just the imagery of honestly caregiving, as ironic as it is, right where we are at. So more of being there, being present, doing the things to make everyone else, you know, kind of comfortable and happy around the situation. So just saw images of that.
And I just want to say, strength is found in sleeping. That is a superpower.
I don't know whether to bring this up or not. Maybe I need a new good psychologist. I go to a wonderful psychiatrist, but that's 15 minutes. But I bought a large house, and my mother moved in with me, and she was spoiled herself rotten. She gambled, bought very expensive clothes. I paid all the bills. And then she bought a car and wasn't paying car insurance. And the fellow's knocking on a door wanting us to take a home equity loan out of my house. Well, stupid me, I did. But I was a caregiver, and I went from one family to another, they all loved me. Not bragging, but I had jobs lined up. But I was more or less ignoring my mother, and she was lazy when she wanted to be. Like, I'd come home exhausted, and she'd say, you know, I haven't ate a damn thing all day. And I said, Mother, what's wrong with you? She's thin. You know, your body eats your muscle when the fat is gone. Why didn't you cook something? Oh, I just didn't feel like it. Well, now I know she was hinting me for me to take her out for dinner, which I was stressed. I was making lots of money, but I was supporting my grandkids and helping this one and that one. I didn't have the money. But she's been gone 12 years now, and it has all boomeranged back to me, plus fighting for my grandkids. But my mother was my downfall. And now I have this volcano of anger towards my deceased mother. How do I get rid of it?
Well, what I would like to encourage you, Judy, and I want to say thank you so much for sharing. I would say thank you, Judy. Thank you so much for what you're sharing. And what I would like to invite is that you honor the anger. You honor that feeling. You honor the part of you that feels so hurt. Just trust that. Lean into the wisdom of your body.
I've lost everything, and it boomerangs back to her.
Yeah.
Her nonsense. She sent me to a boutique to pick up $1,800 for the clothes that she had bought and had altered. And I'm wearing rags and uniforms. And the lady was furious with her, says no more checks from her. And from now on, if it doesn't fit, I'm not altering that. But she used me for the scapegoat. But I wasn't thinking. I should have let her repossess the car. She couldn't have drove to the boat to gamble at the casino.
Yeah.
But I was overworked. I was walking in my sleep. I wake up and I have jelly and bread all over me. She went and she had the Greyhound. She wouldn't take care of it. Well, I'd have to get up in the middle of the night when I was at home in my bed, run to the refrigerator, dig out all the dogs. I was sleeping with 3 dogs and her pit bull. Her Greyhound. To get the dogs out of bed so I could find a place in bed. But she didn't take care of it. She just won, but she never took care of it.
Yeah.
She left all the responsibility to me. A squirrel got in her fireplace. I come home, I owe $350 to wildlife for getting a squirrel out of the fireplace. Well, $350, I don't mean to be cold-hearted, but it's a rat. Let it die or find its way out.
What I'm hearing is you're a realist.
I'm sorry?
You are a realist. You see things from a very clear perspective.
But I used to let it slide. And now that I've lost my house and everything due to I couldn't buy a new roof. I bought one when I bought the house 2 years later, 72. Now, $1,100, inflation. I couldn't afford everything.
Yeah.
But she paid nothing.
Yeah, and sometimes we have those family members who just take and take and take when we're the ones giving.
But is there an easy way to get rid of this? I feel guilty because I'm angry with her, but it's like a volcano. It's all of a sudden this past year is overflowing.
Well, there's no easy answer and there's no quick answer. But what I would encourage you is to honor the guilt, honor the anger, honor that explosive energy within you.
Do you think a psychologist could help me, or is this something I have to work out?
I mean, I'm a mental health professional, and I always encourage individuals to seek counselors, to seek psychologists. It's part of self-care.
But everywhere I work, they like me. And I'm here from one job to another. But then my mother, I never did anything right. But I feel guilty now. I should have said, well, I should have fixed her something to eat. But she was capable of fixing herself something. And then she started having
very stubborn person, and my older sister came and got her. There was a small feud, I won't get into it. I was accused of something I did not do. Anyway, my sister hauls her out to her house, takes care of all her money, and she didn't like that. Oh, she didn't like that.
No.
So it's 3 months, and she's in an apartment. She couldn't take care of herself, so her mother came after her. She lasted 6 months. And
Yeah.
she brought her back. She's furious.
Yeah.
She stayed with me 7 years.
Yeah, you've done a lot of caregiving, and this guilt and this anger, all I'm going to encourage you to do is to trust it,
But she left me
to honor it.
doctor, and she quit going. And I
Yeah.
make a doctor's appointment, and she get angry and have a fit. I'll make my own soul.
Yeah,
appointment.
yeah,
And I feel bad. I was sleeping on the floor, and she ended up having a stroke.
yeah.
I feel like it was my fault that she hard-headed.
Well, sometimes we have those hard-headed family members. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, oh, sorry. I'm usually pretty loud. I go to therapy every week. And I don't like it at all. I hate it a lot because I don't like sharing pieces of myself, and I don't like to feel like I'm burdening someone else with my stuff, because it feels like my job to take everyone else's stuff. And one of the things that he really helped me with is first of all, I have a lot of issues with controlling things and stressing out about things that I can control. And he said, listen, it's in what happened to you. And this is very personal. I think it's a very personal thing. But in my situation, he said, what happened to you, like, you can't change what happened, and you're going back every single day and thinking like, but what if I did this, and what if I did this, and what if I did this? And he's like, you can't do anything. He's like, the best thing you can do is just say, okay, that happened, and like, how does that affect me positively? And there are negatives, and he said, acknowledge those, but use the word but also. So he's like, okay, you feel really scared about this, but also you are a strong, powerful person who can do the next thing. And he said to acknowledge that. So I would say, okay, I also have a fear of driving. So he's like, okay, I feel really scared to get in this car, but also I know I can make it down the road. Or I feel scared to do this next day, but also I know that I have the mental capacity to do it, and to acknowledge that and then add on, instead of saying, oh, it doesn't matter, like the fear doesn't matter. It does matter, but also you can do a little better. So I don't know, it's very personal to every person. If you have the opportunity to go to therapy, I'd encourage it, but like, that's something that's really been helpful to me. Even though I hate going, I hate talking to him because it feels so vulnerable. But that's something that's really been helpful for me.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that insight. The but also, yeah. So I want to again invite us to come back to this place after we've done some reflective observation and thinking about it. We're going to go back into this abstract space, this mindful space, as we get ready to talk about weakness. So again, just notice how this conversation about strength has affected you. Notice what's going on inside of you right now. And again, noticing the points of contact with the chair and with the floor. Notice what's coming alive as we get ready to talk about weakness. And again, just notice what comes up when I share with you these questions. What are your chronic struggles? When do you feel least productive? What patterns prevent progress? Where do you resist? What do you doubt? What are some of your fears? What physical and mental health concerns do you have? Do you have a family history of any physical or mental health illness? Who in your life is bad news, toxic, or otherwise difficult to be around? And just noting what's come up for you in this reflective state. So, what does weakness mean to you?
Understanding the limitations that you may have that you can accept and potentially work on, or accept or work on, actually, or both.
I have utilizing my time more effectively, taking a first step in a goal I have identified.
Issues I face really around time management. There's so many things I'm asked to do, and I sometimes have a hard time saying no because I want to be there for that person, or I want to take advantage of that situation, and I get overcommitted, and my time gets all wrapped up in that. My concerns are actually I never expected to live this long, so I'm really kind of confused about my legacy and what it is I'm going to do. And as far as physical problems, I got this bum knee that's killing me, and I'm waiting for the right medical solution that will solve the problem without a lot of surgery, a lot of thing. So I don't know. Stem cell may be the answer. I'm waiting to hear more about that. But anyway, I don't really have any bad people in my life that I maybe I'm avoiding them, but I don't. I don't hang around with a lot of people that are toxic or bad news in my life. I don't have that situation. So anyway, yeah.
I think that I have bad time management, but it's probably because I say yes to too many things. So those are things. I think if I learned how to say no more often, my time management would be better too.
I would just add, kind of the flip side on the values is I can tell that I'm in a bad place or I'm feeling bad if I start to isolate myself. And, just because I like to engage and be with people, but then my flip side of that is I want to be away from people and be alone. And sometimes that's okay, but sometimes it gets too much alone. I'm always looking for the balance between connecting and being out in the world with people and just being in my own world. So.
Thank you. Okay. So we went through the cycle again, abstract conceptualization, we did some active experimentation, we shared our concrete experiments, and we're thinking, we're reflecting. So let's once again go into that abstract space and just go ahead and notice what the discussion of weakness has brought up for you. We've talked about strength, we've talked about weakness, and what's alive right now? Notice any thoughts or feelings or sensations. Again, welcome them in. Notice the points of contact with your chair, the floor, and notice your breath. I'm going to invite some questions about opportunity. So just go ahead and notice what arises. What is the greatest challenge you have overcome? Who are your heroes and heroines? What can you learn about yourself today? What can you learn about your environment today? And what can you learn about your passion today? When you feel defeated, where and when do you find restoration? What makes you feel courageous? What do you do with your courage? What choices can you make that will support you now and later? what if you could accomplish any goal? Where will you go from here? What are your missions, visions? What is your foundation? What are your expectations? And where are your destinations? Just go ahead and notice what's come up for you. So, what's alive for you as we talk about opportunity?
The biggest challenge I overcame was leaving a toxic work environment where I worked for 25 years in the last year or so. It was really bad. And I had my retirement date planned out through 2024, and I had 12 more years, and I knew that I couldn't take 12 more days. And making that decision, so I left the work environment, making good money, doing what I had planned to do at age 45, and you're not supposed to do that financially. So it was challenging, but it's also been very freeing because now I know, I was able to change what I needed to change in my life to make that happen and to be free to do whatever I choose to with each day with intention. And that helps me really with every other challenge that presents itself because I know that I have it within myself to conquer, address, then conquer.
I decided to go back to what I had shared when we discussed strengths and weaknesses, and one thing that I think I can do so that I don't have to deal with that as an obstacle is to just reach out to my family, my distant family more. And there are so many ways today to do that there's no excuse not to. The weakness of utilizing time, I need to set a plan, create a plan, and the plan should be something that I review morning and evening. Do it in the morning to establish it, in the evening to see if I've accomplished what I had planned to do that day, and to just do it consistently. I always make excuses as to why I can't start the day the way that I want to start the day, because I want to do something else. So I get distracted, and I allow myself to be distracted. So I need to figure out a way to be less distracted.
One of the things I didn't mention was that we recently moved to a new home, a beautiful home, and I love the place, but it's a new community, and frankly, a lot of older people, and I'm old, but I don't care too much for hanging out with old people. And but anyway, so I'm having some adjustment issues, adjusting to the community, adjusting to making new friends, making a new church, adjusting to just not having that circle of friends that for 30 years I developed and grew to know and love. So it's been a challenge to do that. And then in the meantime, my company is bumping along pretty good, but I'm hoping that the end game will be something that helps me to be financially secure, so that I can do some of the things I'd love to do, like travel and invest some more time in the caregiving business that my wife has started. So I have some hopes and dreams, and I think they're achievable, but again, I've got to manage my time and be intentional about that.
And play more golf.
I'd love to.
When you said opportunity, I thought about, I think a lot of times I'm waiting for the perfect moment to do something that I want to do. I'm like, okay, and then middle of next year, I'm going to work out every single day, or I'm going to read 12 books a day, but it just has to be the right moment. And I think a lot of that stems from me not wanting to do it poorly, and I want to execute it really well, because I'm like, well, if I don't do it well, then why am I doing it? And there's a lot of stress behind that. And I think something that I would like to do more is just be okay with failing at something, because it meant I tried something. and I want to be okay with feeling rejection if it doesn't go well, and like building that up and being like, okay, but you tried it. And I think, I don't know, that's something I'm working on in creating my own opportunities, is to try and fail some more.
That's good. I'll just add quickly, like you, I think what came up for me was I'd had a corporate job for a long period of time, and I was good at it, and I was doing well, but I didn't realize it was kind of sucking the life out of me. And I did not make the decision to leave. The decision was made for me. The company went through a downsizing, and my job was laid off. And I went through a real period of, well, what am I if I'm not this, employee? And then I realized that, wow, it was a gift in a way, because yes, financially it was a concern, but on a day-to-day basis, I could wake up every day and say, what do I want to do today? And it was such a weight off my shoulders. So it was a huge opportunity for me. And the hardest thing for me is when people say, well, what do you do? Because before it was so easy. And I had a quick, and this is what I do. And now I will sometimes say, well, I live. And people are kind of surprised, but it's the truth. I just live day to day, and I have a lot of areas, a lot of things that I'm interested in, but I don't define who I am as not what I do anymore. And that's a big change.
Sometimes I answer that by stuff. So, yeah, what do you do? Stuff. The one thing that stuck out for me is who are your heroes? And it flashed in that I don't have any. And, that's a bit peculiar. So, but I really don't. And so maybe an opportunity there is I need to kind of pay a little bit more attention to maybe not so much what's going on around me. I think I got a pretty good sense of that. But maybe I need to pay attention to some of the other details of that, because it just seems to be a little odd that nothing popped up.
Yeah. One thing I really want to reflect back is if no heroes come up for you, who are you a hero for? Okay, so we made it once again through the cycle. We did our abstract, we played with it a little bit, we shared our concrete experiences, we reflected a little bit, and once again we're going to go into that abstract space. So again, go ahead and notice what's here now that we've talked about our strengths and weaknesses, opportunities. And now we're going to talk about threats. So even as I say the word threat, what comes alive for you? What do you notice in your body? Always ground. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel your back on the chair. Notice your breath. And I'm going to invite a couple questions around threats. Where do you experience oppression? Do you experience oppression with your race, gender, ability, citizenship status, your economic situation, culture, oppression in the body, or access to care? Where do you feel unsafe? Where have you historically been threatened? What are the chronic stressors in your life? If you had a major setback in life, what would that be? What's a minor and major crisis? What does adversity mean to you? When do you experience microaggressions? When have you suffered abuse? What obstacles to success do you anticipate? And where have others failed? And again, noting what's come up for you as we talk about threat. So, what's alive?
I was kind of over the place with this one because when you hit on the issue of race, I reflected on my past, and I can say that I have experienced racial discrimination, and it really isn't a pleasant place to be. But as I've aged and as I've been around people that are supportive, that are not of my race, I've learned how to deal with it effectively and to not feel it, not to internalize it now when it happens. And that's a big step for me because I grew up in a very small community where you were separated. If you were white, you were in one part of the town. If you were black, you were in another part of the town. And you did kind of get together, but it was never socially. It was for perhaps events where you were trying to learn how to do something better. The other area that I would like to think about as a threat is that I am my own threat. And I say that because of what I said before in terms of my opportunity, that I am my own threat in that I am the one that is not moving forward to accomplish those opportunities that I described before. So it's my own inability to do that, and that is a little frustrating. So it's, I guess I think of the threat as being a disappointment in self, but also a frustration that I'm feeling.
No, you go.
I've almost forgotten what the question was. The threats are not enough time to accomplish what I'd like to accomplish. I have a real concern about my health, and even though I'm healthy now, I just don't want to get to a point where I have a serious illness and I'm not able to, and financially it drains me and my wife, and also takes a lot of the joy out of living. And I don't want to work until I get to the point where I'm unable to, I have to be carried out on my shield. So I really, really want to stop working soon. But economically, it's beneficial for me to continue for a while longer. So I don't really have any adversities I can't overcome. There will be things that I can't control, but I'm not worried about those because I can't control them. But I'm not too worried about adversity because every problem has a solution, and I have confidence that God will be there and lead me to make the wise choices that I need to make.
Do you want to?
Yep.
Actually, my threat piggybacks off your comments earlier. Really, I have very few external threats in my life. My threats are more internal, that if I don't feel ready to do something, trying to remember that good is better than perfect and take the first step, all those things. And someone said something to me I just thought was just life-changing for me. He said, "You don't wait until all the lights are green before you leave the house, do you?" It's like, no, I don't. You go and you wait for the lights to turn green as you go on your journey to wherever you're going. So that meant a lot to me, and I remind myself of it daily, so I hope it helps you too.
All right, you're on.
Oh, man. I already forgot the question, too. A threat. I think that I'm in school. I go to university, and I run 2 businesses, and I take 16 credits, and I work part-time, and I run a foster care program, and I do a lot. And something that really touched me was my sister called me. My family lives 10 minutes away, and they're like, "We haven't seen you in a month." And that really hurt me. Sorry. Because I was like, why am I losing track of things that are so important to me and putting myself into things that I thought were important but really aren't? And so I guess a threat for me is understanding what's important and how to prioritize those, and not being threatened by things that I'm like, well, this is really important right now, and like I'm going to do all this, and like I'm a super workaholic. And so like, but I want to make sure that I'm working hard at the things that matter and like paying attention to the things that are important. So that's something that's important.
Yeah, this is a heavy one. I wish we could start threat, opportunity, and we could end on strength. But well, what came up for me is, like you with racism, for me, I grew up gay, but I didn't know it. And so when I was growing up, I knew that I was different than other people, but I didn't know why. And I would, believe it or not, I was a skinny kid. I was beat up and bullied a lot. And also I felt kind of ashamed, because even your own family, you have to eventually come out to your own family and to everybody. And it all ended up okay. And what I've taken from that on the positive side is I have a deep empathy for people that are bullied. And so I feel like, and no matter for whatever reason, race or just they're, being vulnerable, and I look out for them. So that's given me a mission that I care about. And it's also made me very wary of people that are fundamentalist. And I don't mean religious, but people that think like they have the answer, because I don't think any one person has the answer. And it's given me kind of a shell, but it's also helped me be a lot more confident as I've gotten older. So that's what came up for me. So it started, part of it's when you're a kid, you don't know. And then as you grow up, you've learned. And so it started as a vulnerability, and it's turned into a strength. So it was something that was negative that became positive.
For me, it was about success, and I kind of line up with you three. It's I'm my own impediment for different reasons, but there's nothing that can't come before me that I can't figure out, and I think that's the kind of thing. So it's if since that is the case, if I stop, it's on me. So.
Wow. I'm going to say it again. Wow. We've shared a lot. We've shared our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, and threats. Now I want to take this abstract concept that we've been playing with, and I want to make it a little bit more practical. We got about 4 minutes left, so I'm going to try and make this brief. So what we have up here is a SWOT analysis of the Kestrel Senior Housing Project in Louisville, Colorado. Now, if you look on your app, you'll see 17 handouts for this presentation.
That's what you do, man. You get most of it.
You get the prize.
You were going to say something.
So within that 17, you will find one of the files that talks about a case study with Kestrel. And it's a couple pages long that talks about kind of the program design and what happened here. So basically, I had a 4-week group. It was originally planned to be a 7-week group that got cut down to 4 weeks. And during each of the weeks, we kind of focused on the strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats of this community. So we got the seniors together. We had about 22 people to 15 people, depending on the week. And we just simply asked, what are the opportunities here? What are the strengths here? What are the weaknesses? What are the threats to the community? And so this is looking at it from a kind of top-down perspective. What's going on in this community, right? So Kestrel is person-centered, and there's free meals, and they have emphasis on subgroups and supporting others. And because this was a pilot program, it's a pilot program that could be a weakness, right? It's unfounded. There's not really any historical basis. Some of the threats we experienced is client dropout. We started with 24. By the end, we were down to 16, right? Yeah, so drug use is under there, again, because drug use is common. I mean, people use drugs. So if a client comes in to our group and they're currently intoxicated, that can disrupt the rest of the group. And then some of the opportunities was really to offer some free PR to Kestrel, to really support some deeper community with the participants at Kestrel, and to really support them where they were at. So I would encourage you to take a look at that. And then on another note, this SWOT analysis can be applied to starting your own business. So I'm sure for those who are business owners, these are some things you're thinking about constantly, one of the different areas of your business. And I also want to encourage you to look at this process in your own life. What are my strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? And then look at the person you love and you support. What are their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? When you're thinking about helping someone find placement, you're going to put them in a facility because this is the choice that has to happen. What are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that your loved one is going to experience in this new facility? So you begin to think about this SWOT analysis, and eventually it becomes kind of second nature. So we have 1 minute left, and I would like to give you a tool for strength, 2 tools for strength. And the first is the stop technique. So if it's safe, you stop. Then you take a breath or 2. You observe what's going on in the inside and what's going on in your environment. And then you proceed with gentleness. And sometimes you can't stop. You got to do something. But what you can do is you can pause. And so the pause process is pausing for just 1 moment, allowing yourself to be. Understand that whatever's alive, whether it's you're in the middle of changing someone's BM, or someone's yelling at you, or your own sense of depression, understand this will pass. And sense sounds and sights, touch, taste, and smell. And experience whatever's alive, or come back to it later. So give yourself permission to stop and permission to pause. Thank you so much for your time. You are all strong.